The Women's Fund money for 60-80-30 has helped us to run a weekly group for women who've experienced domestic abuse. Many of them live in very isolated communities and they have small children, so without the money from the Women's Fund to pay for travel costs and for nursery care, they wouldn't be able to join with other women and get that support. Well, 60-80-30 was started in November 2003 to fill a gap in services for women who have experienced domestic abuse at any time in their lives. Since we started, we've had 638 referrals to our service, and with those women have come nearly 700 children under 16. Domestic abuse is underreported, and if you live in an isolated community, who are you going to speak to? Your relative might work at the doctor's, your perpetrator of abuse might be quite an important figure locally. So we provide a confidential service that women can access in a safe way. I went to the last weekly group and told the women about the money from the Women's Fund, and they decided that they'd like one of their newer members to speak on their behalf. So she's written something which I'd like to read to you, and she says, "I was always so frightened. It was the constant putting down, calling me a slut, saying what a useless mother I was, and that if social services knew what I was like, they'd take my child away from me. It's hard to explain the drip of emotional and mental abuse. It eroded any sense of me as a person with rights. In fact, the violence is easier to explain. At least you've got the bruises to prove it. When I come to the group, I feel safe. I don't have to explain myself, because we've all been there. I feel I'm worth something, and I'm finding out about training for work. And because of the money from the Women's Fund, I don't even have to ask for my bus fare. My ticket is photocopied and my money refunded without fuss. Best of all is what's happened to my little girl. I hadn't realised how withdrawn she was until the other day. She was cheeky. She goes to a nursery, and the money for that is from the Women's Fund. And at that place she's learnt that she can trust grown-ups to listen to her and play with her. Knowing she is safe means I don't feel guilty about focusing on myself at the group. I just want to say to all the people who contribute to the Women's Fund, it's not just the money. It's realising that people who don't even know me care about what happens to people like me and my daughter. Your support helps me to feel better about myself, both as a person and as a parent. Thank you from me and from all the friends I've made at the group."
The money from the Women's Fund was very important to Yummy Mummies. They wanted to do some activities with the children, and obviously they haven't got the income in that they would like to go to Edinburgh Zoo and places like that. So they applied to the Women's Fund and they were lucky in getting 1,700, which is enabling them to do a full year's programme. The money has been put to really good use. I've got one example which just happened a couple of weeks ago. One of the new young mums that joined the group has a baby that's in really poor health, and he had been let out of hospital, and he has lots of machines tied to him, and it's quite poorly. And the Yummy Mummies group had just done a baby and children first aid course, and when one of the young women went home, she took her friend with her for a cup of tea, and the baby stopped breathing. And lucky enough, one of the mums had just finished the baby and children first aid course, and she was able to take control. She said she felt really good because she was fresh in her mind. She knew what to do. She took control. She moved everyone out of the way, and she done the resuscitation on the baby and got the ambulance, took the baby away to hospital. Baby's fine, by the way, but waiting for another operation. But she just felt so good about it and was so pleased that she'd done the baby and children first aid course. Without that, she said she would have panicked and she wouldn't have been able to take control as she did, and she wouldn't have knew what to do really. So the money has really been put to good use if it's only she uses it at one time.
I'm Danny Gilchrist, I'm Project Director for Mobex North East. Mobex is a charity based in Newcastle but delivers outdoor activities throughout the region of the North East. Outdoor activities being adventurous activities but also some low-level things as well. Funding is important for us because without the support that we get from foundations and trusts, such as the Community Foundation, we wouldn't be able to deliver the services that we do deliver. I think notoriously, when it comes to outdoor activities, women are forgotten about. It seems to be that outdoor activities, especially adventurous outdoor activities, are seen as male-dominated. So one of the reasons we wanted to work with women was to show them that they can actually do something in the outdoors. So we targeted an organisation in Northumberland called Escape. Now Escape work with carers, parents, supporters, clients who have been part of, I suppose, drugs, alcohol or even solvent abuse. What one of the women said was this gave her a real buzz. This was completely different to the buzz that she said she got from drugs, for example. And she was having difficulty sleeping at night. And after having done 2 activities with us, her sleeping patterns became better. And for the first time in a long time, she actually began to be able to sleep. Now, without the sort of funding that we get from the Women's Fund, then where would they be able to do or try out the sort of activities that we're delivering? It would be very hard for them.
Deloitte is delighted to be supporting the International Women's Day Lunch. The Women's Fund supports a number of groups and initiatives across the North East, all aimed at enriching and maximising women's potential. This is an ethos which Deloitte fully supports. As we've already heard today, there's a great number of projects that the Women's Fund supports, from Mobex to the Yummy Mummies. Personally, I can relate to a small grant which was made last year to the Morpeth Ladies Rugby team to enable them to buy safety equipment and training equipment. It's absolutely fantastic that this growing ladies team has been given the funding that they deserve for such a minority women's support. And as I play rugby myself, I'm particularly passionate about this cause. And I also feel, for my pride, it's important to tell you that last year my team did face Morpeth twice and we were able to beat them both times. At Deloitte, we recognise the importance of working together with the community. Our own community investment programme includes employability sessions, volunteering and a wide range of fundraising activities. Our employees have run the London Marathon, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and even gone so far as to chuck themselves off the Middlesbrough Transport Bridge with nothing but an elastic band attached around their ankles. Whether it's within business or the community, it's absolutely vital that we give something back to enrich the lives of others, which is what the Community Foundation and the Women's Fund have done so well and for so many women across the North East. That's why we're particularly pleased to be able to give them this opportunity to work with the Women's Fund. And we really hope that this relationship is going to continue to develop and evolve for many years to come. So finally, it just leaves me to say that I really hope that this year we can surpass the totals raised in previous years, which will enable the Women's Fund to continue to support the amazing projects that it already does and extend that to future projects that can help the lives of women across the North East.